If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. The Completely Made-Up Adventures of Dick Turpin is a British historical comedy television series starring Noel Fielding as the title character. Developed by Big Talk Studios, the series premiered on the 1st of March 2024 on Apple TV+. The show is a fictional take on the life of Dick Turpin, the leader of the Essex gang, who commits numerous petty crimes with the hope of becoming England's greatest highwayman while being pursued by a thief-taker, Jonathan Wild, and the secretive criminal organisation known as the Syndicate. Just a little bit about the real Dick Turpin. Richard Turpin, who was born in 1705 and died in 1739, was an English highwayman whose exploits were romanticised following his execution in York for horse theft. Turpin may have followed his father's trade as a butcher early in his life, but by the early 1730s he had joined a gang of deer thieves and later became a poacher, burglar, horse thief and killer. He is also known for his fictional 200-mile or 320-kilometre overnight ride from London to York on his horse Black Bess, a story that was made famous by the Victorian novelist William Harrison Ainsworth almost 100 years after Turpin's death. Turpin's involvement in crime, which is most closely associated, highway robbery, followed the arrest of other members of his gang in 1735. He then disappeared from public view towards the end of that year, only to resurface in 1737 with two new accomplices, one of whom Turpin may have accidentally shot and killed. Turpin fled from the scene and shortly afterwards killed a man who attempted his capture. Later that year he moved to Yorkshire and assumed the alias of John Palmer. While staying at a local inn, local magistrates became suspicious of Palmer and made inquiries as to how he had funded his lifestyle. Suspected of being a horse thief, Palmer was imprisoned in York Castle to be tried at the next assizes. Turpin's true identity was revealed by a letter he wrote to his brother-in-law from his prison cell, which fell into the hands of the authorities. On the 22nd of March 1739, Turpin was found guilty on 2 charges of horse theft and sentenced to death. He was hanged at Knavesmere on the 7th of April, 1739. Turpin has become the subject of legend after his execution, romanticised as a dashing and heroic in English ballads and popular theatre of the 18th and 19th centuries, and in film and television of the 20th century. Is Jonathan Wild. Wild, born in 1682 and died in 1725, was a London underworld figure, notable for opening on both sides of the law, posing as a public, spirited vigilante entitled the Thief-Taker General. He simultaneously ran a significant criminal empire and used his crime-fighting role to remove rivals and launder the proceeds of his own crimes. Wild exploited a strong public demand for action during the major 18th century crime wave in the absence of any effective police force in London. As a powerful gang leader himself, he became a master manipulator of legal systems, collecting rewards offered for valuables which he had stolen himself, bribing prison guards to release his colleagues and blackmailing any who crossed him. Wild was consulted on crime by the government due to his apparently remarkable prowess in locating stolen items and those who had stolen them. Wild was responsible for the arrest and execution of Jack Shepherd, a petty thief and burglar who had won the public's affection as a lovable rogue. However, Wild's duplicity became known as his men began to give him evidence against him. After a suicide attempt, he was hanged at Tyburn before a massive crowd. It was announced in April of 2022 that Apple TV Plus had greenlit a series starring Noel Fielding as the highwayman Dick Turpin. Episodes 1 to 3 were directed by Ben Palmer, and 4 to 6 were directed by George Kane. The series was also partly filmed at Ludlow Castle in Shropshire. Now for me, this is good old-fashioned British comedy at its best. The series is absolutely hilarious and would leave you laughing out loud. The show is fundamentally nonsensical. It's supposed to be over-the-top witty, eccentric and just oddly strange, but it's a humour that really appeals to me, and I absolutely loved every episode, and I just wish they'd made more. The cast are absolutely on point here, with a brilliant performance here from the eccentric, enigmatic Noel Fielding as the infamous Dick Turpin. As the title of the show says, this is the completely made-up adventures of Dick Turpin, so there's absolutely no truth in this representation of the famed highwayman. Fielding, of course, who I first saw in The Mighty Bush and in the IT Crowd, is a very strange type of comedian, but I love his offbeat sense of humour. The rest of the cast are on point as well, with Duane Bochi, Ellie White and Mark Wilton making up the rest of the Essex gang. Mark Heap is absolutely hilarious here as John Turpin, bringing his unique style of performance to the screen, as is the wonderful Tamsin Greig here as Lady Helen Gwynne, who's absolutely stunning as the main antagonist. It's also wonderful to see Hugh Bonneville here playing Jonathan Wild. Hugh Bonneville is such an incredibly versatile actor, and I never knew that he could partake in comedy so well, of course, until I saw him in the show. Williams and Friends, created by Little Britain's David Walliams, where he guest starred and was absolutely hilarious. Bonneville, of course, is primarily known for dramatic roles like in Notting Hill and Downton Abbey, but here he's absolutely brilliant as Jonathan Wild, the thief-taker general. And I must give a special shout out here to Connor Swindles as playing Albert Crumb or Tommy Silversides, the rival highwayman to Dick Turpin. It's a superb, over-the-top and hilariously funny performance here. Look, and all in all, this is a good, hearty, fun show. The costumes are stunning, the sets are wonderful, and the humour is just right up my alley. If you want to escape from the world's realities and just sit down and have good old-fashioned fun and laugh out loud, then this is a show I'd highly recommend. I most definitely cannot wait for some more Dick Turpin. The completely made-up adventures of Dick Turpin gets a 9.5 out of 10.